This is the Honor 9X Pro. I've had the 9X on the channel before. How is the 9X Pro different from the 9X? Apart from being more expensive, it has a couple of features that the 9X doesn't. So it is significantly more expensive than the Honor 9X non-Pro variant. That starts at $13.99. Although if you want 6 gigs of RAM in that one, you probably should. It's $15.99. This is actually a different design than the non-Pro variant on the back. If we just put the non-Pro here, the blue, you can see it has this X, but on the non-Pro, it has these lines that make up the X, whereas on the Pro variant, there are no lines. It's just one, looks like almost like starry sort of color. The X is definitely more pronounced on the Pro variant. So yeah, there is definite design differences between the non-Pro and the Pro variant. Which one do I prefer? Probably the Pro. I quite like the way that the X sort of shines, and I sort of prefer the purple color over the blue. So what do you get in the 9X Pro? 6.6 inch screen, the same as the non-Pro variant. You get that side mounted fingerprint sensor, again, same as the non-Pro variant. Volume rockers on the right hand side, just above, absolutely nothing on the left hand side. It keeps this really cool matte finish, which I did see on the 9X before. I really like the way that it's sort of matte on the outside. It's not shiny. That is also on a lot of other Honor phones at the moment, different series of Honor phones. Everything is the same, although it is a little bit heavier than the 9X non-Pro. It's slightly heavier, and that's because it has a cooling system, which apparently is going to help you for gaming. So if you do want to use this phone for gaming, you might want to go for the Pro variant. Huawei say that the Pro variant's cooling system just helps keep the processor cooler, which means it doesn't have to limit the processor during gaming, which should, in theory, give you better gaming results and keep the processor powering at a higher rate for longer. We do keep the LCD display from the non-Pro variant. Honor just doesn't use OLED displays in even the Honor 20 Pro, so it's not going to use them in these. Now the Pro variant comes with a triple camera system, if you can call it that. You get the main sensor, 48 megapixels, and you add an ultra wide on the 9X Pro that you don't get on the 9X, and it also has that depth sensor as well. So for an extra 500 RMB, there or thereabouts, you get an extra 2 gigabytes of RAM, a little bit more storage as well, a cooling system in the phone, and an ultra-wide camera as well. I think for 500 RMB, as compared to the non-Pro version, that's quite a lot of stuff to get. The battery is the same, 4,000 milliamp hours, and the charging is the same too, 10 watt charging on this one. The front camera is 32 megapixels. Although it takes 16 megapixel shots as standard, you can just change it in settings here. And in video, it does 1080p, but you can change it down to 720p. That is apparently recommended and not 1080p. So I'm guessing that in 720p, the stabilization is a little bit better. This is in completely non-beauty mode, but you can change that on the screen all the way up to 10, which smooths out your skin and takes away your spots. I just personally prefer it down on 0. If you want to see more photos from this and some information of this compared to the Honor 9X and the Redmi K20, go and follow my Instagram and my Twitter. I'm going to be posting a lot more stuff there. So yeah, if you use beauty mode, it's definitely going to smooth out your skin a little bit. That's up to you whether you like that. That's on beauty mode that comes out the box, and this is on 0. I still think there's a little bit of sharpening and smoothing here and there going on. But overall, it's a pretty natural selfie. So the great thing about the 9X Pro over the 9X is that it has an ultra-wide camera, and I think at this price point, you do need one now. So this is a normal shot, but then going to that, you just get much more in the shot. And zoom cameras, like 2x zoom, I don't think are really that relevant these days. You can just crop in 2x digitally. But if you don't have an ultra-wide like the 9X, then you're just not able to get this sort of shot. This is 2x zoom, and this is all digital zoom because there's no zoom camera. I think the clarity is decent. The colors are slightly more washed out as compared to the ultra wide, But in terms of crispness, if you're going to be posting it on social media, I really just don't think there's a massive quality difference between a 2x zoom camera and just cropping in. Huawei colors aren't as vibrant as some others. They're a little bit more neutral, a little bit more natural. The clarity is fine though. We know what we're getting with this camera, 48 megapixels, although it takes 12 megapixel images as standard. The ultra-wide camera is only 8 megapixels, which isn't that much. It's actually quite low, so I'm not too surprised that this shot looks a little bit sort of non-sharp or out of focus. It can't be out of focus because this is an ultra-wide camera. Everything's going to be in focus, but it doesn't look that sharp when compared to, for example, the main camera, which looks sharper. That's a 48 megapixel camera down to 12 megapixels versus an 8 megapixel ultra wide. So you're not going to get the sharpest images out of this, but you know what you're getting with an Honor or a Huawei camera. You're going to be good images and more natural than some other Android phones. So you do get video on the ultra wide, which I'm a big fan of. That has a lot of functionality, but bear in mind it is only an 8 megapixel sensor, and the megapixels are decreased when using video too. So you're not going to get the sharpest video out of that ultra wide, but it's a good feature to have. Exactly the same as the non-pro variant. Mono speaker on the bottom there. It's good, it's loud, not a lot of bass. Exactly the same as the non-pro. So which one should you go for, the 9X or the 9X Pro? Well, I think the 9X Pro does add more functionality. You get that cooling system, you get that ultra-wide camera, which are both very good additions. And compared to the 6GB version, non-pro variant, it's not that much more expensive, and I think you get a lot more functionality out of the phone.